If you're watching this while your car is stopped at a red light, please give me 10 seconds, because there's a chance the wheel you've driven on has rolled over a life like mine. I'm a cat and I didn't die completely, but I got close enough to hear silence waiting for me. And you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the pain, it was the moment I realized someone saw me and still pressed the gas. I'm not telling you this to make you cry. I'm telling you so the next time a small shadow crosses the road, it won't be turned into a quiet mark and forgotten. I didn't really have a name, not the kind people put on a collar, but one person did call me something. An elderly sticky rice seller in my alley called me Mup. I lived in a narrow old lane beside a main road with damp concrete steps, a few green plant pots, peeling metal doors, and yellow streetlights trembling on wet ground. By day I watched the alley, rats, roaches, and the old woman's sighs. And by night I slept by the doorstep, listening to traffic like a river that never cools down. I learned a rule the hard way. Don't go out when you're hungry, because hunger locks your eyes onto food and makes you forget danger is real. That day she didn't come out, drizzle started falling, light, cold, steady, and my stomach twisted like something was running inside it. So I went farther than I ever did, far enough that I had to face the main road. The main road smelled wrong. Rubber, gasoline, hurry, and it made my whiskers lift like my body was warning me to stop. I stood at the edge, where rainwater streamed toward the storm drain, and did exactly what she always taught me. Look left, look right, then look left again. I waited until the gaps between cars felt big enough to breathe, and that's when I saw it across the road. A dropped food bag, soaked in rain, but the smell was meat, fish, survival. Hunger turns you reckless, it convinces you you can outrun fate. I stepped down onto the wet asphalt, one step and then two, and there was no warning horn, no screech, just wind and a thin whoosh like a blade cutting past. When I looked up, the headlights were already right there. I wanted to turn back, but my paws were slower than fear. Through the rain-streaked windshield, the driver's face was a blur, and I thought he would break. I believed it the way animals still believe the world will be kind, but he didn't. Then, impact, white, then black, then pain, slamming straight into my chest, and I tumbled to the side as rain flooded my eyes. The road was hard and freezing under my fur. I tried to move, but my legs weren't legs anymore, and I learned a new rule. Sometimes the road doesn't just scare you, sometimes it takes you. I heard the car stop nearby, a door open, footsteps, and for 1 second I thought this is where someone runs to me, lifts me, says sorry, but no. He stood there staring at me like I was dirt, like I was a stain on the road and not a living thing trying to breathe. I tried to cry out, but only half a sound came. My throat felt full of needles. He looked around, not to help, but to check if anyone was watching, and then he turned away. Door shut, engine, and the car disappeared into the rain. That was when I understood some lives aren't considered worth stopping for. I lay exactly where I'd landed, right by the curb, beside the stream of rainwater sliding into the storm drain, and I couldn't crawl, I couldn't stand, I didn't even have the strength to try. So I stayed still and breathed in thin threads, counting each breath like the last coins of my life. Yellow streetlight reflections stretched across the wet pavement, and the rain kept tapping my back like a clock without mercy. Then I heard claws skimming through water, and a larger shadow ran up fast and stopped. A dog. I wanted to be scared, but I didn't have enough life left to fear anything. He lowered his nose to my shoulder, no biting, no growl, and he smelled like dust, hunger, and something I didn't expect from a stranger: loyalty. He looked into my eyes like he was saying, "Stay with me, don't let go," and then he barked one long rough alarm, and he ran, away, back, away again, like he was dragging the world toward me with nothing but desperation. Soon there were footsteps and voices. Hey, a cat, get a towel. Find a cardboard box. And someone knelt close, hands shaking but gentle, and warm cloth touched me for the first time since the crash. The dog came back and stood between me and the road, barking at cars like a living wall, like a spine made of flesh standing up in my place. I wanted to say thank you, but I could only manage one short breath. The box arrived, dry and lined, set right beside me, and they didn't yank me or drag me. They slid a towel under my body like a sling, kept my head level, and lifted me once, carefully, like I still mattered. And for the first time since the impact, I didn't feel like a stain. They carried me fast but steady as rain smeared everything into yellow streaks and cold white glare. The dog stayed glued to the box, escorting like a guard who refused to leave. Ahead, a doorway spilled clean white light, and under the awning they slowed down and held the box stable. Inside, faces weren't clear but hands moved quickly. The flaps opened. A clean cloth wiped my whiskers and forehead. And I couldn't sit up, but my breathing stopped fighting me quite so hard. At the threshold, the dog sat perfectly still, eyes locked on me like a promise. Time stretched as rain slid down the glass in slow lines, and the dog blinked once but never left the doorway. Inside, warm towels wrapped around me, a few careful drops of water, and a steadier rhythm in my chest. I was still weak, still small, still shaking, but I wasn't fading anymore. A paw curled, an ear twitched, my eyes held focused longer than a heartbeat, and I lifted my head just a little and the room didn't spin as hard. Then, slowly, I rolled from my side onto my belly. Not a miracle, just a decision, a body choosing to stay. I took a few sips of water, I breathed deeper. I stood inside the box for a moment, my legs trembling but real, and then I stepped onto the clean floor. 1 step, 2, 3, and stopped to look toward the door. The dog didn't rush me or cross the line, he just watched like he'd been holding that place for me. And I walked closer, still careful, and touched my nose to his muzzle. No speeches, no grand moment. Just two animals understanding one small truth. The one who saved me wasn't the driver, it was the one who chose to stop. So if you're driving, please remember this. When you see an animal crossing, slow down just 1 second, because that second can be their whole life. Search for the channel Wild Miracle Rescue and hit subscribe.